You made it. You are here with me at Living Limitless, Play Your Way to Freedom. I'm Andrea Luzon. I'm here to connect, play, and awaken your power, your freedom, your expansiveness. I have brought today for you to meet Lakota Leijon. She is a certified life coach through the Life Coach Training Institute. In addition, she is a master's level educator and clinician, certified in mental health first aid, peer advocacy, and clinical trauma CCTP. With over 40 years of experience as a dancer, she has expanded her practice to include dance movement psychotherapy. In addition to one on one coaching, she has led mindfulness, dance, and movement workshops, facilitated support groups that address trauma, resiliency, postpartum, and self perception. She has organized various youth based workshops that center on healthy relationships, self esteem, and teen empowerment. You can follow her work at lakotamoon.org. Lakota, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. This is really awesome. So I'm so humbled to be here today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your time and your generosity. So, we heard a lot in your bio, but I'd love to know what inspires you to stay in the work that you do.
Wow, I think what first and foremost inspires me is actually my daughter. She is, 13 years old, growing up in a time of like so much uncertainty, growing up in a time where she is seeing firsthand how like social justice issues and how a pandemic can impact one's like mental health and overall well-being. And so she primarily is kind of like my ongoing guiding light in terms of maintaining the work. I know for me, I've known all too well the importance of self-care and wellness. And so I take into account the importance self-care and wellness has been for me in my life. And this stemming from being a mother at 14, dealing with a lot of mental health issues, at a very young age, whether it was depression, whether it was anxiety, or even the act of cutting. And it wasn't until I was linked up with an amazing, amazing therapist who was not your typical clinical therapist, whose biggest tool for me was teaching me about self-care and teaching me about wellness from a holistic perspective, whether it was breathing, mindfulness, journaling, meditation, and just the act of like speaking your truth as it relates to the pain that you're going through. So, I take that into account there. So you have like my daughter who's like constant reason, and also my own experience and how I know the value of wellness, of holistic care. Yeah.
Wow. I'm so grateful in this moment that you had such a leader, because a lot of times clinicians are like, here are some medications,
Mhm.
whereas this person actually insisted that you feel your feelings.
Yes.
I know I was raised to shove feelings in a box and shove the box under the bed far,
Right.
far away.
Right.
So
Right. No,
I was raised to think feeling feelings was like wrong.
right. And so was I. And I was raised in a very strict religious family where if you're depressed, you pray. If you're, or you're such and such age with no type of responsibility. What have you got to be, depressed about? And
Mhm.
so coming from that background, and then at the age, I would dare to say I would say 18, 19, when I first decided that this was not working for me. I was unhappy. I was a young mother, being pulled in different directions, not taking care of my mental being, which kind of manifested in my physical being.
Mhm.
So when I eventually met up with this individual, I was expecting the same thing, sit on the couch, you're going to get medication.
Mhm.
But she literally was, I think the best word to describe her would be organic.
Mhm.
Her approach to me was very organic and holistic and also very indigenous because she was also very big on like the power of scent as it related to aromatherapy, and how tying in, yeah, and how tying in a different scent can yes can literally have you think of things from a different perspective and also take you back. So it was really, really important for me that when I finally decided that I wanted to undertake this practice as my passion work 2 years ago, that I incorporated those type of elements, that it was like something organic and holistic.
Wow.
And it really took a lot of introspection, because when you are brought up a certain way and you're conditioned to think a certain way, if you're not open to changing that conditioned mindset, it'll stay with you. And I was fortunate to be opened to changing that conditioned mindset.
Yes. Wow. I
Yeah.
want to go so much deeper with all of this. Um, so I feel like you already answered my next question, but I'd love for you to expand. So I feel as though a lot of people who are interested in the holistic, transformational leadership work, deep dive, going within, shedding our old skin, our old patterns and paradigms,
Mhm,
and moving into who we know we are way deep down before all the programming, our divine self, our inner guidance.
mhm,
I feel as though a lot of us have, there were inklings throughout our life, little messages, little hints were dropped, and yet a lot of us also have a major breakdown or
mhm,
multiple or daily breakdown. But
mhm,
and then we get to this point where we break through, and then we
mhm,
know that we get to be a leader in this way. Would you
mhm.
tell us, would you be open to expanding on your journey in regards to those facets?
Sure. I think for me, it was again the experience of being, pregnant at 14,
Mm,
and not sharing that information with anyone. I mean, I
mm,
literally kept it a secret, up until the day I gave birth.
mhm,
Um, and to kind of hold that type of secret, because it wasn't your typical secret of someone doing something and you're keeping your mouth shut. I was walking around carrying a child as a child. And my first moment of breakthrough was actually, when I gave birth to my firstborn, my son, who's now like 31 years old. Whew, was, first that, and then going through postpartum depression and not realizing that it was postpartum depression, because
mm,
once again, I didn't have someone who can hold that space for me, that I can talk to, that I can just release. So you had that piece dealing with the depression, and then coming from a very strict Caribbean household, where the idea of expressing yourself and stating that you were dealing with something was just non-existent.
mm.
So my breakthrough, I felt like I was having these little mini breakthroughs. And then the real breakthrough was literally, I can say, about the age of like 18, 19, when I just felt that I cannot function this way. I'm not happy. I just can't. There's just nothing I can do. And I was then placed in the path of, this individual. It's even hard. I can't even state her as a therapist, because I really felt that she was a healer. I
Mm.
truly felt that she was a healer. And she came to me, she lit, and in the strangest way, in the supermarket, you know, um, I'm in the midst of like buying something, and she literally came to me and just said that your energy drew me to you. And I'm looking at her like, okay, am I being punked? Am I on camera? And she just said to me that the weight of your sadness, it was as if you were trying to throw an anchor for someone to grab onto it. And she's like, well, I'm grabbing onto it, and I think we need to talk. And that is what then put me on this journey of a lot of like self introspection, a lot of reflection, a lot of self healing.
Mhm.
And, and I felt for me like that was a very pivotal moment,
Yeah.
a
You're
very
getting me a
pivotal.
little like, like,
Oh,
that is, I'm like, you covered me
yeah.
with goosebumps. That
Yeah,
is
it
like,
was but that speaks to the power of energy, that
yeah.
really speaks to that. It speaks to the power. And I feel like when individuals are in tune to other people and you are a
Mm,
natural empath, you will be placed in a position where there's someone out there that's going to need your help, your service. And I truly believe this is what this individual did. Like, she had no idea that I would be at the market, or nor did I.
Mm.
But because of the fact that she was a natural empath, and because of the fact that she is herself like this immense, intense energy,
Mhm.
she was drawn to me and I was drawn to her. And it truly, truly was life affirming for me. It really was, really
And
was.
and your son was 3 years old at the time, 4 years old?
Yeah, he's about 3 or 4 years old at the time. 3 or
That's
4 years old at
I
the time. Yeah.
like, talk about the great if she'd caught you at the postpartum, that might have been a little more helpful. But
Yeah.
it's still what I'm hearing is just a huge opportunity for life shift.
Oh, totally. Totally. I think we all go through life shifts. I really
Mhm.
do.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're conscious life shifts, and sometimes they're not, and it's really trying to kind of move in this life with a heightened sense of awareness, and
Mhm.
also wanting the life shift and being welcoming of it,
Right,
because no matter which direction it takes you to, it really is there to kind of, I believe, build our armor of resilience,
right.
because
Yeah.
as human beings, we are resilient, we are adaptable. I think what stops us from being and living our truest sense of who we are is being open to being adaptable, is being
Mm.
open to change and seeing how that change will benefit you, no matter how uncomfortable that it may be. And I know
Mhm.
for me, that's the struggle that I normally would have with some of my clients, is that, okay, we've recognized what the barriers are. We've laid out a plan as to what we can do to start shifting our mindset and perspective. But
Mhm.
because they've been so used to being comfortable in that uncomfortable environment, the idea of change freaks them out.
Yep.
The idea of like now adapting
Pick me.
to
Pick me.
yeah, now adapting
Struggle
to
is
a
real.
different mindset is tripping to them because they've been so uncomfortable with it, uncomfortable with it. And so I do feel that we have to kind of grow like a heightened sense of cognitive
Mm.
um, resolution as it results in like understanding life shifts and understanding that good or bad, it's there to build your resiliency and prep you for adaptability in terms of change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm feeling as though you will have some wisdom in this area.
Hmm.
I am so interested to know from your perspective, how would you define the word trigger,
Hmm.
and how do you personally move through a triggering situation and come back to your authentic self, your values,
Hmm.
and then maybe how do you guide clients to do the same?
So for me, I define a trigger as anything that sets you back in a space where either you are completely uncomfortable or comfortable. Um, because there can be triggers that can be good as well. Like we get so caught up in thinking that triggers are totally bad, but there are instances where you can have a positive trigger.
Mhm.
I'll give an example. If I see like a picture of my daughter when she was a baby, that sets off a trigger in terms of like what she smelled like as a baby, and just the level of happiness that I had when I had her. Um, uh, you know, a negative trigger for me would be seeing. I actually have a perfect example. I recently found out that one of my students, a seventh grader, became pregnant, and so that was triggering for me because
Mm.
even though her situation is slightly different than mine, but it kind of took me back to a space where the feelings of fear, the feeling of anger, the feeling of guilt and shame,
Mhm.
came over me because, and just hearing, I haven't even spoken to her yet, but just hearing that she was pregnant was really triggering for me. And one of the things that I say to clients and that I practice myself is it is okay to sit in that triggering moment as opposed to trying to escape it or trying to forget it. You know, triggers are always going to be there. They're not going to miraculously just disappear
Mhm.
because life is here, everything is cyclical. And when I'm faced with a trigger, I literally sit in it. I think about it. But I think about it now from a power perspective, that it
Mhm.
no longer defines who I am. Whereas if I didn't have that power perspective mindset, it would probably kind of throw me into like a depressive mode or an
Mhm.
angry mode. But I sit with it and I utilize it as a tool for reflection. I think about where I was then when it wasn't a trigger, when it was actual real life, compared to now that it is a trigger. It is something that kind of brought me back to a certain moment in time. I take my time, I think about it, I reflect on it. I ask myself, well, why was this event triggering for me? And then I try my best to just kind of explain that like through positive self-talk with myself. And then once I sit with it, once I'm comfortable with my reflections on it, I take a moment to relax and now I keep it going,
Mhm.
because I know that this is not a one-off. There's always going to be a triggering moment, a triggering event. I think what's important is figuring out, for especially when I work with my clients, how we're going to work through this. Because I have had clients that would tell me, I don't want to talk about it, Miss Lakota. It's too painful.
Mhm.
But what I try to impress upon them is you are now in a position of power where that trigger does not have to define you. Maybe at the time of the actual experience, it did define you in a way that it kind of set the tone for how you were now moving in life, especially
Mhm.
coming from trauma. But now you're in a power perspective where you can actually look at that trigger. We can take off the layers of it and discuss it at length. And if it's meant to be arrested, we put the cuffs on it and put it away. And if it's something that needs to be delved further, because now this trigger is now impacting the way that you are at work, the way that you're interacting with everyone. Now we need to sit down and kind of game plan tools to be able to handle those triggers, whether it is talking to me or whether it is doing some sort of deep breathing exercise or just staying still, because sometimes staying still allows us the opportunity to kind of flush out this particular trigger and really play detective as to, okay, where is this coming from? And then why is my body and mind responding to that way? So I really do my best to come at it from a power perspective, because now this trigger is not going to define me anymore.
Right.
I have an advantage now because I'm not in the experience. I can now just really, really just kind of dilute this
Mhm.
and really just look at it for what it is and see, is this getting in the way of my doing what I need to do? And if it is, okay, I need to tackle it. I really need to just dissect it. And if it's not, let me just reflect on it and then try my best to keep things moving, because life continues, whether we want to realize it or not. Life does not stay still because we had a moment, it continues and we got to be able to move with that.
Yes, I'm loving this. And I am recalling from our discussion earlier that you might be open to demonstrating some of your practices or one of your
Yes,
tools with us.
yes, yes, yes.
I'm
So,
cozy in my chair.
um, yeah, so you can stay in your chair. This is one of my movement practices that I usually do with clients who either don't want to stand up or may have like some sort of physical issues. And I'm a big proponent of breathing. I don't think people realize the power of the breath. I really don't. And I look at it from like when I work with my students, when they are about to get into a fight or get angry, they forget to breathe,
Yep.
and that kind of amps up, right? That kind of amps up like the negative attitude. So this
Mhm.
particular breathing, I just call it, I call it my welcome breath. And it's really just sitting up, sitting straight and thinking as if a string is pulling your head. Eyes are closed, and then your hands are down at your side. And I always say, just let loose, let the arms be loose. We're not
Okay, so
tensing
not
up.
not on the
Yeah,
lap, just let them
yeah,
loose. Okay.
just let them loose and allow all of that energy to kind of just rest at your fingertips. And then slowly but surely, we're going to breathe in. And as we're breathing in, we're going to raise our arms like as if we're just kind of raising them as high as we can. I know, as high as you can. And again, the energy is being guided by your fingertips. You know, breathe in, and then we're going to breathe out. And what we're going to do is we're going to have our palms forward, and we're going to bring it down as we breathe out. Palms forward. Slowly, right. And right, fingers spread. And let's do it one more time. Let's bring it all the way down, and then let the energy come down, and then breathe in. Open up the hands, open up the hand. Breathing in. Excellent. And let's breathe out, palms facing forward. There we go. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I look at it as releasing old energy and then welcoming the new energy in. You know, and this is this is actually one of my favorite exercises, because you can do it sitting, you can do it standing, with the mindset of, I'm going to release through my fingertips. I'm going to release energy through my fingertips, and then just kind of evoke all that positive energy that's around me to kind of now become part of me. You know, and whether you want to evoke it for the day or whether you want to evoke it for the week, it's however way that you choose to own like that particular exercise.
So it's about releasing the old and bringing in the new.
Yes, yes, which
I
you
like
can
that.
do anytime. You know, it's not even about there being a new year. You know, releasing and invoking is something that we can do ridiculously all the time.
Yeah, that was very relaxing.
Thank you.
Next time I want to scoot my chair over so I
Yeah.
right here. But I love that. Thank you so much for giving us a demonstration. And
Awesome.
so as we're releasing and then calling in, I'm curious, when I say the phrase living limitless, the
Mhm.
title of the series, what comes forward for you?
Wow. I think what comes forward to me is just living unapologetically,
Mhm.
um, and just living authentically. I
Mhm.
think when we put up walls, when we put on masks, we have to always kind of maintain that. Um, or putting up a front, you always have to maintain that. But when you live limitless, there's freedom in that. And the only way I feel that you can attain a level of freedom is by living authentically. You know, almost like, damn the status quo. This is how I'm living. This is what makes me happy. This is what brings me joy. This is what alleviates some of the hardships that I go through if I were wearing that mask. And so
Yeah.
I do think like living limitlessly is really living in your authentic self. I truly believe that. I know that's a practice that I practice myself because I'm a big fan of modeling behavior.
Mhm.
Um, that's a thought process that I impart with my daughter as well as my son. My partner lives that way as well. You know, just living in your own authenticity. And when
Yeah.
you do that, there's no limit to that. You know, you're not confined or bound by societal norms, cultural norms, family norms. You're not bound by that. So I really feel that to live limitlessly is to live authentically.
Mhm. And I heard you say play, and I heard you talk about your kids. And so
Mhm,
when I say the word play, or can
mhm,
you tell us more about how you incorporate play and how
mhm.
play can lead to one's level of being awake and feeling free and feeling empowered?
So I always look at play as the ultimate form of self-care.
Mhm.
Um, and for me, you know, it's interesting because I have like the surface level stuff and the deeper stuff. The surface level stuff, when as it relates to play, is like hanging out with my children, whether it is like playing board games or I'm a movie buff, watching movies, and then just really enjoying that time with them. And then the deeper stuff, I come from a dance background, and dancing has been my passion, has been my life literally since the age of like 6 years old. I always say that dancing for the most part got me through some of the roughest times of my life. And now I'm at a stage where it's part of my self-care, putting on music and then just dancing around in the house, or dancing with my daughter, or out of nowhere just busting in and doing a little dance with her. And it's an empowering feeling because again, it's freedom. You know, the ability to play is about freedom. It's about letting loose. It's about controlling your narrative as it relates to your self-care. And so play is really important. I try my best to incorporate it in my practice, depending on the type of client that I have. When I'm working with my students, it's you know, I love seeing people laugh. You know, I love to laugh. I think laughter is medicinal in every single way. You know, it shifts everything. And so I definitely feel that play is part of self-care. And it can be something as simple as, you know, again, like playing games. Or like I said, I love music. So when I hear music, I automatically dance. And I don't care where I am. You know, that's my way of just of keeping myself self-invigorated and motivated is by play. Definitely.
Yes. I've definitely been turning on some fun dance music
Yes.
in between the interviews for this
Mm-hmm.
series.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I hear you on that for sure.
Yeah.
And I get to bring in more music and playfulness.
Oh,
Um,
totally.
so practices. What what practices do you utilize to help you stay in a higher vibration, in your authenticity, in a more awakened, expansive state?
So for me, it's two. The first one is definitely meditation.
Mhm.
I'm a big proponent in the power of meditating, where you have to be able to just kind of lay still, you know, for a moment, whether it's a few minutes. You know, some people are very fortunate they can do it for longer spans of time, but meditation. And for me, what makes meditation so important to me is that it really allows me the time to feel and be uninterrupted.
Mm.
You know, it allows me the time to sit with myself, to center myself, to be in touch with my core for however
Mhm.
moments I can. And so meditation is really important for me. The second part is I'm a big fan of like mindfulness journaling, whether it is, and doesn't necessarily have to be a huge narrative in terms of how my day went. It's really just having a space to write about how I'm feeling, why I'm feeling this way, and things to think about in the moment. And so those two practices are very key for me. The ability to meditate, the ability to kind of center myself, and the journaling, which is my ability to release, you know, and to convey things that sometimes talking may not be as effective. In a completely safe space, non-judgmental whatsoever, I can just relay my words onto paper. So those are my two, definitely my two consistent and very important practices for me.
Mhm. Outstanding. I am right there with you.
Yeah.
Pulling that in. So, we've talked. I'm getting such a strong sense of resiliency
Mhm.
in you,
Mhm.
and and the creativity with dance and being playful. Do you believe that creativity and resilience are intertwined?
Oh, I totally do. Um, we can even we can even move away from our practice and look at it at a historical perspective. In times of like revolution, you know, you had teachers and artists whom are like the foundation. You know, they are the creative holders, right? And they'd be the ones that would be come at the most, and they take it all in and then utilize that fuel to further
Mhm.
push ahead their creativity. So I
Mhm.
definitely believe that creativity and resilience intertwine. And you know, you have some of us that are natural creatives that out of nowhere we just have it. And then we have others that you kind of have to cultivate your creativity. And then when you're cultivating, when you're building it, when you're developing it, it does take a certain level of resiliency because of the barriers that are into play with that. So I totally agree that it isn't easy to maintain and stay in your creativity. It
Mhm.
definitely isn't because there are so many challenges that can come your way. But you know, when you have that armor of resiliency, not only does it protect that creativity, but it also enhances it. It kind of feeds you a certain level of fearlessness for you to go out there and do what you need to do, whether it is to inspire someone, whether it is to teach someone, whether it is to heal someone. All of those entities require a certain level of resiliency. So
Mhm.
it definitely intertwines, without a doubt. I don't think one can stand alone without the other.
Mm.
I
Yes.
really don't. I don't think so. To be resilient, we have to be creative. We have to think of creative ways in order to deal with the barriers that are out there. You
Right.
know, Someone who's dealing with a traumatic event, a young child who's dealing with a traumatic event, who does not necessarily yet have the tools to be able to handle it, but yet is a brilliant, brilliant artist. And
Mhm.
without that individual realizing it, when they feel that they're going into that dark space, they write about it, or they draw about it, or they dance about it. That's
Mhm.
resiliency and creativity in action. So it definitely intertwines. It definitely does, for sure.
Yeah, I feel as though we would have a lot more artists, a lot more fully expressed artists in this
Hmm.
world if we didn't have so many societal
Yes,
barriers saying,
yes,
no, you're going to work 9 to 5, and
yes.
all of these, all the programming that we grow up
Hmm.
experiencing, and
Yeah.
we could go down so many, we could take that in so many different directions of
Oh, totally.
very barriers that stop people from being in their full creative
Right,
self.
right, right. And unfortunately, this society seems to put resiliency in its own box.
Hmm.
They don't realize that it's a good thing. It's what sets your tone in terms of survival mode.
Hmm.
It's what regulates your fight or flight mode. And we always seem to make it seem like it's a separate entity, or it's the underserved that are resilient. And as a woman of color, I've heard that a lot. Oh, you're so resilient. And I'm like, well, everyone has a certain level of resiliency.
Yeah.
You tap into it based on the experience that you're going through. It's not something that's relegated to the poor or black or brown people. We all have it. Babies are resilient. When they come out of the womb, and their immune system is fresh, and they're now dealing with all these type of possible health issues, or emotional issues. Because I always tell my female clients that we as women, our emotions are held in our womb. That's our emotion holder. And so imagine a baby coming out and now having to deal with like the outside world. So resiliency is something that is had from like the womb,
Mhm.
till the day we leave at least this life. So I get frustrated when people put it by itself, and I love the fact that you asked that question, whether it is intertwined, because it is. We just don't think about it that way because we have a tendency to compartmentalize and separate things, as
Yeah.
opposed to not realizing how impactful both are together. So thank
Right.
you for that. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that to light.
Thank you for expanding on that.
You're
And
welcome.
I am excited to make sure that our audience members know of a way to experience your work
Mhm.
on on an even deeper level or more profoundly. So I understand that you have a perk or a gift that you would love to share with our audience members. Please tell us what it is and how we can get it.
So, my gift to the audience members is a free hour-long one-on-one session with me. And that session can be anything from working on setting goals, career change, to an issue that you may be grappling with, that you need additional support, guidance, and perspective. It can also be someone whom is interested in the mindfulness movement practice as well. If you want to just spend an hour doing some really, really great mindfulness movement breath work. It's free for an hour. I just ask that, I can be sent an email at lakotasummermoon@gmail.com. And all you would need to mention was, I saw you on Andrea's show,
Mhm.
and we will get it going.
Outstanding. Thank you for sharing that with, I really want to state to our audience, please take advantage of
Mhm.
that amazing opportunity that probably will not be available for long. So,
Right.
And on that note, Lakota, I feel as though there's someone watching right now who's loving their experience of you and who this person's life could transform on an exponential level should they follow up with you and work with you. What would you like to say to that person?
Well, what I would love to say to that person is if you are not so much like what I'm saying, but if you are comfortable with what I've said and you feel that the spirit is kind of moving you in the direction that you're realizing, okay, I need help, please reach out to me. I always, with any potential client, I do a 15-minute consultation, which is absolutely free because it's a feeling out moment. You know, we got to see if we both fit for each other,
Mhm.
to see if you're right for me and I'm right for you, because things, and I've had that before, things didn't work out, and that's okay. But if there is someone out there that's at the point in their lives where they need support, where they need to see and experience a different perspective, where they need help in terms of shifting mindset, because I feel like that's the heart of our work, Andrea. The heart of our work is shifting mindset. You know, people
Mhm.
who are coming to us had a conditioned mindset that for as long as we can remember is not working. And
Yeah.
so now they're coming to us not only to get the tools to feel better, but also the mindset so that once they leave us, the work that we've done together will benefit them for many, many years to come. So if anyone is at that state where they are just tired of being tired and want a sense of relief by way of doing the work, because it is work,
Mhm.
please reach out to me. Check out my website, www.lakotamoon.org. Send me an email and I will respond right away.
Awesome. I hope that our audience members heard that loud and clear, because I'm really getting us such a sense of power from you. And also, like I'm really feeling like you hold the person that you work with gently and carefully, and also hold them accountable in regards
Yes,
to building practices,
yes.
utilizing tools like breath work,
Hmm.
working with you. So I'm really excited to continue to follow your work, to for us to continue working together. This has just been such a fun conversation. Thank you so much
Yes.
for your generosity.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm looking forward to the partnership and continued success,
Mhm.
continued light with everything that you're doing.
Thank you. And it's possible because you're here. So thank you again. And I want to thank our audience members. I am Andrea Luzon. This has been Living Limitless. Play your way to freedom. I look forward to being here with you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.